Hi, I'm Kathy Mazak, and today we are talking about how to get professional development funding. As I kind of get set up here and we get going, I would love it if you would say hello and where you're joining from. Um, so let me get started. If you are unfamiliar with me and what I do, I am an academic women's writing coach, and I am also a full professor and mother of three. And one of the things that I realized in the years that I've been professoring, which is now almost 15, is that a lot of times the university plays up like it doesn't have any money to do anything. But even when my university right now is like straight up broke. So they're trying to cut $500 million from the budget. And even so, people are getting funding to do things. And so my takeaway from that and from the experiences that other academic women that I've worked with have had is that there is always money, but you have to ask. Okay, so today we're talking about how you make that ask for to get your professional development funded. So let me talk a little bit about, to start out, I'm going to talk about why you might want to get some professional development program, like why you might want to enroll in a program. And then I'm going to talk about why you should ask for funding. And this is even if you are lucky enough to have your own startup money, you should still, in my opinion, ask for funding from a university. Now I'm going to explain why. And then I'm going to go into 3 steps for, making a really solid argument for getting funded. I also have a template letter for you. Actually, while we're kind of getting ramped up here, let me just click over here and get you the template letter. It is I'm going to drop it in the comments. It is a Google Doc. So all you need to do there, you'll be able to view it, but you won't be able to edit it. So all you need to do is make a copy to your own Google Drive, or just copy paste the whole thing into a Word document if you're a Word person. So that is that. All right, let's get started. If you're here live, I see there's about 3 people watching, so go ahead and say hello, so I know who's on here. If you don't comment, I don't know who you are, so I can't shout you out. Okay, so let's get started with why you might want to get some personal development funding. So I wrote an email about this earlier this week. I think it's really ridiculous how in academia there's some really messed up things about the culture of academia, right? I'm preaching to the choir here. There's some things that are weird. And one of them is this belief that you're supposed to know how to do the job because you have a PhD or a doctoral degree. So I just want to acknowledge and say out loud that there's a really big difference in the skills that you need to get a PhD and what the activities you do in order, to get the PhD. That skill set is fabulous, but that's only a very small part of the things you're going to need to do to be a professor. Hi, Jen. Thank you for joining. So we have in other jobs, potentially, I don't know if I'm exaggerating when I say this, but I feel in other jobs, the training that you get, you get a degree and then you get onboarded with training and stuff. And we don't get any of that. It's just this belief that we're supposed to know exactly what to do. But we often don't know exactly what to do because we've never done it before. Hi, Sarah. Yay. And so, maybe your university has a mentorship program. Mentorship programs are fantastic, but also difficult because everybody's overworked and nobody has time to do mentoring, right? Maybe your university has a faculty development office, or offers, workshops to faculty. But what ends up happening a lot of times in those workshops that are university funded or university created is that what they're really doing there is promoting an agenda of the university, what they want you to do, right? And so a lot of times if you sign up for a writing workshop at your university, what they're talking about is grant writing, right? Because they want you to bring in the money. And they're not talking about like how you keep your publication pipeline going so that you can get the grants. How do you get your stuff published so that you get promoted and you can stay working at the university, right? So there's a lot left to be desired in terms of training people how to do academia, and especially how to do it in a way that isn't just work until you drop. Okay, so we have a big problem with culture of overwork in academia, and professional development is one way to manage that culture of overwork by learning how to be successful and meet your goals, but do it in a way that feels good to you and doesn't drive you into the ground to burnout. So that's the reason that it's a great idea to look for a professional development program that's going to meet like some of the things that you're struggling with. So of course, I talk about writing. So what my programs do is I help academic women write and publish more by teaching them how to manage their time, teaching them how to set up their pipelines and keep them flowing, teaching them how to project manage writing, and just being a support and a person who says you can get your writing done and you can actually live this professor life in a way that feels happy and good and not like you're just, like on a runaway train. So that's why you might think of looking into professional development programs. So at the end of this little talk, this workshop, I'm going to tell you about 2 professional development programs that are coming up for me from me in the summer to see if one of those might be a good fit for you. But for now, let's imagine that you have found a professional development program that you want to participate in, but you would like for the university to support your participation. So one way that the university can support that is by giving you funding. Now you might be thinking, I'm a brand new professor, and so I can't ask for too much because I just got here and they just gave me a computer and whatever. So we want to channel a little bit more confidence in the fact that the university, if you're new especially, just went through a very expensive and lengthy process to get you. So they don't want to lose you. So I tell this story a lot. I have an uncle who was the vice president of a college in New Jersey. And I called him up and I said, look, how, what do administrators think about, professional development for their people and everything. And he said, the big thing that is a problem for the administration is losing people, is turnover. And so so one way to solve that problem, if you're an administrator, is to make sure that your faculty are supported. And one way to support them is through professional development. So the big message here is, if they got you, they want to keep you. Okay. They want to see you successful. And it doesn't always feel that way because, as we've been talking about in recently, right? Like sometimes the tenure process feels like hazing. It's mysterious. We don't know how many publications are really required. We're not going to be beholden to the same standards that the other people who went before us were, because the bar is always, shifting. But even so, from an administrator's perspective, from the perspective of people who hold the money, you were expensive to get and you're going to be really expensive to replace. And so you might think a search committee is just, what do you mean a search committee is not expensive? Oh, yes, it is. It's taking up the time of, taking up hours and hours of time of a group of professors that you are paying. So just looking at it from an admin money perspective, right? Maybe they paid for you to go to campus. Maybe they paid for you and 3 other people to go to campus and give talks. Like, it's thousands and thousands of dollars. I would say when we talk about, if we include the salaries of professors who are on the search committees, it's a tens of thousands of dollar investment. So to invest a couple $1,000s in your training and development so that you can stay happily in your job is worth it for the administration. Okay, so I just want to say that out loud. And so the big idea there is don't be afraid to ask. Don't feel like you don't deserve to ask. Don't feel like you're being a pain in the butt if you ask, because no, they want you there. They want you there. And this goes for people who are post-tenure as well, like really even more so, I think, because to replace somebody who is, associate is a whole other level of stuff that the administration's got to do. It's better just to keep the people you got. Sarah asks, do you also think that people who are filling in as full-time visiting props for non-reviewable positions can ask? I think so. Yes, definitely. Look, you should, like, what do you think's going to happen? They're going to say no. If you don't ask, it's like getting a no already. So you should ask. And I think that, if you can say, it's gonna obviously be beneficial for you, but it's beneficial for them too. If you are participating in some kind of professional development program that helps you write and publish more, and those publications are coming out with the name of that university because that's your position right now, then that's excellent for them. And so you need to find, and that's what we're going to get into next, is like you have to figure out what does your university want and how can you, show them that what they want, they're going to get by funding your professional development. So we're going to talk about that. Actually, that's step 2, I think, but I'll get there in a second. So yes, totally, Sarah, like you think about, I don't know what your, what your field is. But think about, like, does your department worry about number of publications and those things? Like, is there some kind of metric that your department or your college is, measuring that is number of publications in peer-reviewed journals? If it is, then you can absolutely say, like, hey, I'm going to do this 10-week program or this 12-week program, and it's going to help me write more, and I'm going to have more publications to contribute to that metric. And forever and always, those publications are going to be out there with the line, with your visiting position as the affiliation. So that is definitely, a way to support your department and your university and to really, build up the reputation of your department. All right. So let's do 3 steps. 3 steps to getting professional development funding. Step number 1. So step number 1, and they're going to take a little bit of homework, but I think you could do this. I think you could do this in an hour. Okay, so get out your calendar and schedule an hour to do these 3 steps. I already wrote you the template letter, so you don't have to invent the letter from scratch, which is going to save you a lot of time. So step 1 is to identify all the possible sources. And here we're going to think out of the box. Okay, so I'm going to give you a list of possible sources, but go ahead and tell me in the chat any that come to your mind because they might spark something for somebody else. So one possible... Oh, so I also want to just say, like, you might be thinking, your first reaction might be, there's no funding sources on my campus. So I just want to say that I've been doing this professional development for academic women for over 3 years, and you would be surprised, like, how many people got funding for different things, especially like my retreats. Like, and you might be thinking, they'll never fund a retreat. Oh yeah, they will, because we're going to explain how the retreat is going to benefit the university when you come back. And so they're not funding your vacation, they're funding your training. And so the university have pulled money out of all kinds of places to fund the professional development of women who have been in my programs. So, okay. So here's one place to look. The first place to start is your own startup funds. So if you are lucky enough to have gotten a startup package, then that is definitely a place that you can go to fund professional development, okay? So you might not have thought of that before. You might have thought like, oh, I can only buy lab materials or I can only buy equipment or whatever. Actually, you can use it. You can totally use your startup funds to fund professional development. So that's one place. And I'm going to talk about, well, let me give you the list and then I'll kind of talk about how you can combine these things. Because maybe you already have a plan for all of your startup funds, and that's okay. Like, so I was just on a conversation with somebody yesterday or the day before, on Wednesday, and she was like, I don't know, but they already gave me the startup money. And I'm like, okay, they gave you that startup money. You want to use it for something else? Great. They should give you more money. If they give you like $10,000 in startup funds, they can give you $2,000 to take a program. Like, it's really like, you just have to ask. Okay. So startup funds is one place. All right. So a lot of people don't have startup funds. So the next place to go is your department chair. So you want to ask the department chair if the department has funding for professional development. I have a hair in my mouth. Yay for the internet. Okay, there we go. I got it. So if your department has funding for professional development, and if your department says no, then you're just going to keep going up the ranks. The dean, the provost, you're going to keep going up. But here's what you're going to do when you go up. Okay, so the department chair says, oh, wow, geez, that sounds like great idea, but we don't have any money. Then what you do is you say, oh, okay, fine. Would you write me a support letter? And then when you go up to the next person, then the department, you attach the letter to the letter template that I provided you here. You write your letter and then you attach the support letter of your department chair. Then you go to the dean and you say, hey, dean, do you have this money to support me for the program? Or could you partially support? That's the other thing too. Like, can your department give you $500? Can you just some partial funding, right? And then a letter, and then you go up to the dean. Dean, can you give me some money? Oh, geez, I don't, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you don't have the funds? If they cry poor, which is not true, by the way, but if they cry poor, then you say, okay, well, could you write me a letter? And that is like a letter of support because I'm going to go up to the provost. So just keep going up, but as you go up, ask for letters of support. So that the objection of, I don't have money for that, oh, you don't have money for that? Well, can you just send me a letter? That's free. So you write me a letter for free. Okay. So then so department chair, dean, going up. Then you also want to look and find out if your university has a professional development office or a faculty support office. Okay, so that it's usually under like the Dean of Administration or the Dean of Academic Affairs. And it would be an office that coordinates workshops for your university, and, is kind of in charge of professional development. So you want to go to them and say, do you have funding for us? Or I would like you to fund me participating in this other program. And you don't have to do this second thing that I'm going to say, but you could, and that is, you could say, I would really like to participate in this program. And when I'm done, I would love to offer a workshop for our campus. So that's a little way for you to give back to that office. So you want to also, you can also talk about mentoring. That would be something too. Like if you have an office, maybe like some universities don't have faculty development, but they have a lot of like PhD or student development. You could go to them too and say, hey, I want to do this. Kathy Mazak's promising that we're going to be better mentors and that we're going to end the culture of overwork. And I think that's something our students need to know about. So if you can partially or fully fund me to do this program, then I would love to come and give a workshop to the doctoral students on campus or whatever. Okay. And then the other place that you want to look is your faculty equity office or your faculty diversity office. Okay. So, there's been a lot of articles in the Chronicle and in Inside Higher Ed about these faculty diversity officer positions and how sometimes depending on, sometimes it's just like lip service. Well, it's time to make those people pay up. Okay. So if you have a faculty diversity office, or an equity office, then you should say to them, or an officer. Okay, so it might be an office, but it might be just a person. Then you approach that person and you say, like, it is a goal of your office to make sure that people have equal, equitable access to tenure and promotion. And this is one way that you can do that is by supporting me in my professional development. And as a woman of color, you are going to be able to say, like, hey, people, put your money where your mouth is and fund me to do this thing. Okay? So just to review, the places that I talked about were your own startup or professional development funds, your department chair, dean, provost going up the ladder, your professional development office or faculty support office on your campus, and your faculty equity office or diversity office or officer, because sometimes that's like a position, like a person. Now, if you have startup funds, but you don't want to use them, go to all these other channels. And truthfully, like, if you have all those things on your account, if everybody gave you a couple $100, you would fund your professional development. It really would, really. And then you wouldn't have to dip into your startup money. So things to think about. So step number 1 is to find all the ways that, tap all the sources, identify all the possible sources. So maybe take 15 minutes and Google around or search around your university's website and see if you have these different offices, okay? And just make a list of all the people who you could be asking for funding from. Okay, so that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to connect to the strategic plan. So if you teach at an accredited university, then your university has a strategic plan. Because to get accredited, they have to articulate what the strategic goals of the university are. So if you do any kind of grant writing, you know this, and you probably have the strategic plan saved on your hard drive somewhere. So you need to find the university's strategic plan. It should be publicly available on the website. So if you haven't found it yet, then look at your university's website. And if you can't find it, then you need to write to your dean and say, hey, send me the link to the strategic plan. So you want to look at the strategic plan. I'm going to bet something in the strategic plan talks about one of the things I'm going to mention. It talks about publishing. Okay, it talks about getting peer-reviewed publications out and increasing the university's presence in professional journals and that kind of thing. So strengthening publication and increasing the number of publications from the university. I bet that's in the strategic plan. Or if it's not called publications, it's related to research. And the link between publications and research is that you're not going to get the research funds unless you have the publication record, right? So that's one thing to look for in the strategic plan. And then the other things to look for are anything that talks about equity, diversity, women professors, faculty of color, anything that talks about your university's commitment to fostering the success of women faculty or faculty of color. So then what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and just copy paste direct quotes from the strategic plan into a document for yourself. And you're going to use those in the template letter that I shared with you in the comments. Okay. So it's really important to, again, like, you use the university's own words about what they say is important to make your argument for why they should fund you to do these things, okay? So if you have in your mind, like, oh, I'm just one person and blah, 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 if you get better at what you're doing, so many people are going to get better. All your students are going to get better. Your colleagues around you are going to be like, what is she doing that she's all of a sudden, like, seems calm and is publishing out the wazoo? You know, like, you're going to have a ripple effect. So definitely connect to your strategic plan, because your professional development contributes to the university complying with their strategic plan, or I want to say enforcing, but that's not the word, but, fomenting the strategic plan goals. Okay, and then step 3 is ask. Okay, you have to ask. So Again, everybody could be crying poor. You're going to ask anyway, because if there's one thing I've learned from my broke university, it's that there's always money for stuff. But if you don't ask, nobody's going to give it to you. So step 3 is ask and keep asking. Oh, hi, Jen. She wants to seem calm and actually be calm. Yes. And let me say an aside about seeming calm and being calm. It's a process. Like, if you've been following my emails, I have not had a calm week. I've been stressed out this week. But I know how to find the calm place again. And I know that I have systems and processes that I can rely on instead of just relying on like grit and stress and adrenaline, right? That's what we want to try to move away from. Okay. So, step 3 is ask and keep asking. So you need to start asking today. Like, this is not going to take you that long, like an hour, right? You've spent 15 minutes looking at the different offices and finding the people you're going to address the letter to. You've spent, 15 or 30 minutes combing through the strategic plan and finding these quotes that you're going to use. And now you're going to craft your letter based on this template that I gave you, where you're going to there's places you can plug in the quotes from the strategic plan, and you plug in the decision maker's name, and you edit that to become your letter that you're going to send to all the people that you identified. So you start asking today, you ask at all the levels, start with your department chair and move up, ask people who say no for support letters, and for them to say like, oh yeah, it would support our strategic plan, for Jen to do this, summer faculty development program. So you just have to start asking, and it's time to start asking now, for summer funding, right? Because we're almost there. We're like 6-8 weeks away. Amazing. Okay. So those are my 3 steps, which is identify all the possible sources, connect to the strategic plan, and ask and keep asking, all the people. Okay. And, if you ask too many people and you get too much money, that would be an excellent problem to have. Okay. So, but if you only ask one office and they say, we can give you $250, then that's great. But, if you'd ask everybody and everybody gave you $250, you would have $2,000 and you'd be done. So let me talk a little bit, and you can ask me any questions in the chat. I'm watching the chat go by. So although if you're watching me in my group, and you're commenting in the group, I can't see your comments, but I'll go in there when I finish this and answer your questions. But if you're watching me on my page, if you click through the link in the email and are watching me, then I can see your name and your comments. So if you want to go ahead and ask me any questions, go ahead. And I'm going to talk to you about the 2 faculty development, professional development programs that I have on offer for this summer. So the first one is the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap. And what I'm really excited about is that I'm doing a 2.0 version. So this is a revised version of this program. So I created this program 3 years ago. It was my first program. It wasn't my first program, but it was the kind of signature program that I created in my writing coaching business. And now I have reworked it and combined it with lots of really fantastic resources. And it is now a 12-week program that starts on May 15th. Okay, so it starts on May 15th, and it is self-study. So we have an online group where we have support, and you can ask questions, and I'm in that group answering your questions and looking at your homework and things like that. But basically, it is video lessons and a workbook and 12 weeks, 1 module per week, of a program that is going to help you write and publish more. So if you are feeling frazzled about your writing, it keeps falling to the bottom of your list, if you feel like you never have time to write, then this is the program for you. If you are traveling this summer, it's going to still be super easy to do this program because all the lessons are online. And so It runs May 15th to August 10th. All the lessons drop at one time. So that means that if you wanted to go faster, you could go a little faster. But basically, there are 12 weeks of content with online group support and kind of everything you need to plan your pipeline, plan your year, figure out your accountability systems, just get your writing done this year. So it's like, let's take the summer to really like figure out a better way, a way that, like Jen says, like will lead to more calm. That's what we want. We want less freaking out and more calm. So yes. So let me look in the chat for questions, then I'll tell you about the second option for the summer. So Janine, are recent PhD alums able to get financial support from their college? I don't know the answer to that question, but you could totally ask. So like I think the big takeaway is just ask and see if, you know, for example, your PhD program wants you to be placed in wants you to get a tenure track job and get a good placement, because their prestige goes up when you are placed at a wonderful institution. In order to get placed at a wonderful institution, you need to publish. Similarly, your PhD program is going to get more, if that's still your affiliation, right? If you graduated but you don't have a position, so your affiliation is still your PhD program, or you did your research there, right? It's your dissertation research. Then your affiliation is that university. Then it builds their prestige by you publishing with them as your affiliation. So you could totally make that argument and look at the strategic plan. See if it says something about grad student placement or graduate placement, and make that argument. But that's something you could absolutely ask your department chair first, is what I would say. If your university has a placement office that helps you find a job, ask them. But even in the initial asking email, don't just say, hey, don't ask like you asked here, right? Ask and connect it to a reason to fund you that is important to the person that you're asking. Okay, so like a placement office would really want you to get a great placement because it helps them shine, right? So you want to say that in your email, like, oh, because your mission statement is to place, da, 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 da. Or because the strategic plan, if you're writing to department chair, because the strategic plan says that the university wants to increase its number of publications and its impact on the field, I'm wondering if the university has funding, would be willing to fund this program that's going to help me write and publish more. So it's definitely like, just ask, but whenever you're asking, just think about what's important to the person you're asking. Okay, so I know we're always thinking about it's important to us, and it is important to us. But when you're doing funding requests, you always need to think about what's important to the funding agency. Okay. Are previous roadmap students, clients able to access the updated version or access it at a reduced rate? Yes. So there will be an option to kind of upgrade into the new version. So if you are a previous roadmap student, you get lifetime access to the program you have. The new roadmap it's a 12-week program, so it actually starts and ends. So you get kicked out at the 12 weeks. And the reason for this is because I want people to go through the program. Like, I want people to finish it. It is totally reasonable to finish this program, the revised program, in 12 weeks. If you're a previous roadmap student, you know that there's 7 modules, and that module, I think 4 is the one that takes a lot of time or more time, but they're not hours and hours and hours long, right? It's like I learn something and then I implement it, and I learn something else and I implement it. So basically, yes, there will be an opportunity that if you're already a roadmap student, that you can upgrade into the new version. So that'll be coming up. So the information about the new roadmap, I'm going to be doing a webinar later in the month, And then you'll also be starting to get emails that are going to be kind of previewing the new roadmap course. So don't worry if you're an old roadmap student, you still are going to be happily with access to the old roadmap. But the new roadmap is going to be, like I said, it's 12 weeks and it is structured as we all start together, we all end together, and yeah, it's a 12-week program. So the other program I have available this summer is specifically for tenure track women who are pre-tenure. Okay, so this is a subset of all of you who are listening. So if you are on the tenure track and you're pre-tenure, then I have a new program called Amplify, the Faculty Writing Accelerator. And in this program, this program starts May 28th, so it starts the last week of May. And it is a year-long support program for pre-tenure women. I have been doing interviews because it's an interview only, like, you apply and I interview you, and then we are creating cohorts of 8. So the first cohort of 8 has been formed. I'm super excited about it. And so now we're filling the second cohort of 8. And so I would be super happy to run 2 cohorts this summer. It is like I said, it's a year-long program, but it starts with a 9-week intensive. And the 9-week intensive is, I have a framework called the Amplifi Framework, and there's kind of 9 spokes on that framework. And I will tell you all about it if you want to schedule an interview. So let me just drop the Amplify pre-tenure program interview sign up. If you are interested in this program that I'm telling you about, I just put the link in the chat. So it starts with a 9-week intensive, but the support lasts all year. So in the 9-week intensive, we do it's live. So we do 2 weekly live calls for 9 weeks. One call is going to be a workshop style call where I teach you one aspect of the Amplify framework. And the other call is going to be what I'm calling a mastermind call. And I love this mastermind concept. It's something that is really common in the business world, but that hasn't made it into academia with this name at least. But the concept behind a mastermind is that you have a group of people with a similar goal, but maybe different backgrounds, and everybody's trying to reach the same goal, and you get to use kind of the collective wisdom of the group to help you reach that goal. So if the goal is tenure, and what we talk about in the Amplify program is going up for tenure with confidence. So the promise of the program is you're going to go up for tenure with confidence because you're going to have the number and quality of publications ready to go and in the pipeline and out of the pipeline by the time you go up. So going up with confidence is the theme. So the mastermind calls work like this. It's an hour-long call. At the beginning of the call, we check in with everybody. We go around and just say if you met your goal or not. We don't talk about excuses or anything else, just like did you do it or did you not do it? And then we have 2 20-minute hot seats. And what a hot seat is one of the 8 women in the cohort, gets up on the metaphorical hot seat and says like, hey, this is what's been holding me back from getting this publication out, or I have to make a decision about where to try to place this, this piece that got rejected, or I've been asked to participate in this research project and I don't know if I want to do it or not. Help me make the decision. So we do 2 women each week and we rotate through. And then at the end of the call, the last 10 minutes, we set goals for the week. So those calls are both like really deep peer mentoring. And so because people are not at your university, you get this great like kind of outsider perspective with people who are like, who just really love you and want you to succeed and don't have anything at stake, right? Because they're not in your department. So even like sometimes when we have faculty mentors at our own universities, they will kind of be like, oh, you're trying to do too many things, or you're doing too much, because you're showing them up, you know? And so having a peer mentor group with a writing coach, there with you is a really great way to get support and clarity about, the steps that you need to take to go up for tenure with confidence. So we have that call also has accountability built in, because we're checking in on goals. So that's 9 weeks of 2 calls per week. So I call it like a 9-week intensive, the workshop plus the mastermind. But then the mastermind continues monthly after that. So it goes to the whole year. So it ends at the end of April 2020. So that all the things you learned in that 9 weeks, you are going to get support for as we continue to have monthly calls for the whole year. So if you are pre-tenure and you're interested in doing tenure prep in a way that feels good, in a way that is about your mission in your academic career, is about kind of not just like, I'm going to meet my university's expectations, but rather I'm going to become a better person through going through this process. Not I'm going to burn out, because so many people, like, the message is just write, publish, just do all the things. And then you get tenure, and then you actually have, and I'm saying this partially from my own, my own experience, but more from other people's experiences. You get tenure and you have an existential crisis. You're like, I don't know what to do now, because everything I've been doing has been focused on getting tenure. So what if instead everything that you're doing is focused on your development as a person and as a scholar, and the development of your scholarship, and not just the I'm going to get the numbers and get the numbers up, so that's the idea of the Amplify program. So the Amplify program is interview only. So Veronica, I would love to talk to you about it if you schedule an interview. Because it's a year-long program, it's an investment. And that's part of the reason that I'm doing this call, is to teach you how to go get that investment from your university, at least partially. The other part of the Amplify program is that we have a 5-day writing retreat as part of the program. So the 8 women who are in the group together also will come to Puerto Rico and do one of my fantastic writing retreats together. And then also you get one-on-one coaching from me. So the only way that you can get one-on-one coaching from me right now is through the Amplify program. I'm not doing one-off coaching sessions anymore. I'm phasing that out and just spending all my time helping women in the Amplify program to go up for tenure in a way that feels good to them. So Veronica, I would love to talk to you about it. You can also, if you have other questions, send me an email at kathy@kathymazak.com. I'm sorry, this is all bubble. I'm typing on an unsteady surface. So I just put my email in the chat. And I would love to answer your questions by email. But I really want to, what I really want to do is get on the phone with people. And we get on Zoom, we talk. A lot of people who have scheduled those interviews have said, well, the interview itself was helpful. So don't be shy, schedule an interview, and I would love to talk to you about it. So those are the 2 summer faculty development programs that I have running. You know that I love to talk about writing, and that I think that if you put writing at the center of things, that everything else, not magically, but by design, will fall into place, and you will be a better teacher, you'll be a better researcher, you'll be a happier scholar, because you are getting your writing done, and you are securing your future by having a great publication record. So, and if you have any more questions, I will be in the comments later after I get off, so you can go ahead and ask me questions in the chat, and I will happily answer them. And I'm also going to be doing some webinars coming up. One about the Amplify program, which is called, well, it's called Write Your Way to Tenure. So that's coming up, and I don't have my calendar. Wait, I have a calendar. So actually, I'm going to do that on it's penciled into my calendar, but I haven't sent the email yet, on Wednesday, the 10th. So that would be something to come and see, Veronica, and you can I explain the framework, so you can see if it's something that looks good to you, but I'm happy to talk to you before that too. And so I'll be sending an invitation to that webinar, which is called Write Your Way to Tenure. So again, whether you think that you'll participate in that program or not, the webinar will be helpful because I talk about what you need to do in order to go up for tenure with confidence with in terms of publications. And then later in the month, I will be doing a writing roadmap webinar, and that webinar is about writing systems. Writing systems is a big part of the Academic Women's Writing Roadmap. And I don't teach a write everyday system. That's not what it's about. So that doesn't work for me. So I teach something different. So stay tuned for that. So don't forget to open your emails. I know I send you a lot of emails, but good things are coming up. So you might want to open them. All right. So I'm so happy to have spent this time with you today. Ask me any questions you want in the comments, and I will see you soon. Bye.